In this video, I'm going to be addressing a question I received regarding dog aggression in a dog park. I thought the question brought up some important concepts that I think that would be beneficial for you to hear me address. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the question is a little bit long, so I'm going to kind of be breaking it up as I go along. So it starts off, I have a dog named Ginger. She is a 2-year-old Jindo mix, and she was rescued from the Korean meat farm. When she was a puppy, she loves to play with dogs and roughhouse, and we took her to the dog park every day, but when she turned around 1 year old, she started being a little bit aggressive with some dogs, and ever since then has gotten even worse and worse and worse. Now she's aggressive with most dogs, but usually just big dogs. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop there and unpack this a little bit. For starters, dogs go through changes as they get older. So a puppy may enjoy a certain type of play, and then as they mature, they may start to become more dog selective. They may decide that they don't like certain dogs bumping up against them like they did when they were younger, or now they may take more offense to that kind of behavior. You may see your dog begin to guard certain objects at the park, maybe the water dish, or pick up a stick and then it's guarding it when maybe when it was a 4-month-old puppy, it didn't, or it was really submissive to other dogs. So as your dog matures, things are going to start to change. Okay, so a 2-year-old dog has a very different mentality from a 4-month-old puppy. So a 4-month-old may enjoy that kind of rough play. If they see a dog that they learn they need to stay away from, they may act really submissive. Versus when a dog starts to become 2, they may, if another dog challenges them, they may act very differently than they did when they were a young puppy. Now they may not be so submissive like they were before. So that's one thing you really need to be aware of, is that as your dog matures, things are going to be different from how they are currently. Okay, let's get to the next part. When I let her say hi to other dogs, she is very still, and sometimes her mouth will start to quiver and foam, and then she will snap at the other dog, and then we pull her away, but a few times she has been off leash and got into actual fights. Okay, so that's a big red flag. It sounds like your dog has been on leash in the off leash dog park. That can cause a lot of problems, and I get why you were doing that, right? You'll probably bring your dog in. You maybe started seeing her have some altercations with dogs, so you thought you would put her on leash to try to keep the other dog safe and see how she was going to do in the park. But this can cause a lot of problems. So when you're walking your dog in on leash in the dog park, in a dog park scenario, you have the situation of a lot of times the dogs want to come and meet that new dog that walks into the gate. Well, if your dog is on leash, it's very vulnerable, right? It can't run away. It can't act normally how it may want to get on the ground. It may want to move in a certain direction, but it's essentially tethered to you. So often you'll see a lot more defensive type behaviors, growling, barking, to try to keep these other dogs away. So it's really imperative that if any of you are going to be in an off-leash dog park, you really want to make sure that your dog is off the leash as well. One thing that you want to do is don't bring her in on leash to the off-leash park, okay? That's just a recipe for disaster. There's more here. So she has gotten into about 5 fights. Luckily, her and the other dog never have gotten hurt, but the fights were very vocal. Okay, so one positive is that in this is that your dog is pulling its punches, so to speak, so it is inhibiting its bite. If 2 dogs do get in a fight, I prefer it to be loud rather than silent. Often the more noise the dogs are making, they're usually not biting and shaking. So essentially it was a big argument. Now, if you haven't seen a dog fight, or maybe you're new to seeing and witnessing your dog fight, then it can be somewhat traumatic because it's super fast, it's noisy, it's very primal, and it's hard to even see what they're doing. They're moving so fast. So usually what we do is someone tries to break the dogs up as soon as they can. And often what you'll find is the dogs are just wet around the neck area, all right? Every now and then some dogs will get a superficial wound on the ear or the eye, but usually these fights aren't too serious. Now, In your case, if your dog has gotten into 5 fights and it's also being defensive, then it's a problem. Your dog is probably feeling pretty overwhelmed. And I'll get to that a little bit further down. But so there's good news in that your dog is pulling its punches and it's not trying to kill the other dog. Bad news in the fact that it's feeling the need to get into these altercations, whether it's she's being too assertive with some dogs or being defensive. And I'd be interested to know if she has been at the park off leash, if she just kind of keeps to herself and then has a problem with other dogs running up on her, or if she's actually seeking out conflict. I'm guessing that she's probably being more defensive or possibly guarding certain objects. That's what it just sounds like to me. So I need more information. All right, let's move on. Ginger has gotten more dominant and alpha, and she wants to be the alpha dog, and if the other dog is an alpha, that's usually when she acts really aggressive, and she used to not pee on other dogs, and now she does. Okay, so one, your dog's maturing, she's probably getting more assertive, and then she's clashing with a certain personality type, right? If she's a female, maybe she runs into another assertive female at the park, and they clash. Okay, or again, it could be your dog is kind of isn't really enjoying the dog park scenario and keeping to herself, and then when other dogs come up, she's starting to assert herself or telling the other dogs to back away. Again, I would need to see this behavior to really diagnose it. I'm just going off of what you said, but we see this all the time, right? So as a dog matures, they don't let things fly like they did when they were younger. Okay. Any suggestions to make Ginger more friendly with other dogs? Well, number one, you need to stop taking her to the dog park. And I get that's probably not what you want to hear. You're probably going to the park to try to get exercise in for your dog. I know a lot of people live with high energy dogs. They live in apartments and there's not, in cities, and there's not enough green space to get the dogs out and running freely. But you can also find other outlets to exercise your dog and bond with you that at this point right now is going to be more beneficial for your dog. Right now, I would assume that once you pull up to the dog park parking lot, she's probably getting anxious and nervous and probably not enjoying the whole experience if she's not playing with dogs. If you find she's just out there growling, moving away from dogs, feeling the need to assert herself constantly, it's not going to be healthy for her, not a healthy environment for this particular dog. So what I would do is avoid the dog parks right now, and then maybe try to find a few dogs, whether it be friends or families, dogs, and go slow with their introduction and see if they learn to get along with each other. They may enjoy each other's company. So again, dogs become more dog selective, and maybe your dog isn't a dog park dog, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she is going to dislike all dogs. The majority of dogs I have not been what I would consider dog park dogs. They're just not like that. They're fine with dogs that I choose for them to interact with, and I have a pretty good idea of which dog is going to like which dog, usually. And that's just most dogs. I mean, I know some of you may have a dog park dog that seems to just naturally avoid conflict and happy-go-lucky, runs around, meets lots of dogs, finds the dogs that they want to play with, and then avoids the ones that don't want to play. But that's not a lot of dogs. It's not most dogs, I would say. Yeah, I would say anybody that's watching this video and has been to a dog park has probably seen some type of dog fight occur in the park. So what I would recommend that you do is try to find a few dogs and go slow with introductions, right? Take them on a walk together without having them interact at first, on the first meeting. Then maybe let them slowly sniff through a fence, and then slowly see how that introduction or meeting goes over a few times, and then let them interact. I take lots of dogs in for boarding and training, and usually we have anywhere from 6 to 8 plus my personal 3, so 10, 11 dogs at a time. There are times when we have a certain group that they can all be out in the same training yard together. But the majority of the time I'm separating. I'm putting this group of 3 here, this group of 3 here, this group of 2 here, and I rotate them depending on how they learn to get along with each other. Some dogs are just natural bullies. Other dogs are super submissive and fearful of dogs running up on them. So it really just depends on what kind of dog your dog is going to like. It doesn't mean you can't have another housemate dog. You may already have another housemate dog. But for now, I'd be real selective on which dogs your dog is going to interact with. We don't want her to continue being put in that dog park scenario from here on out. All right, that's it for this question and answer session, and I'll see you in another video.